So now that you guys have gotten a little bit about why SLTAs exist and what our framework for SLTAs are, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper into the specific job description, as well as start to review some of the responsibilities and expectations. While we've joked about it not being all about you and talked a lot about all these other pieces around partnership and faculty support and support of our program, one of the big chunks of our job and our program really is student leadership and student development. So when we refer to these job expectations that we have of you and responsibilities, if it's not meant to directly support your course or your partnership, it's likely that it's all mapping back to these SLTA learning outcomes. So, a lot of this is about being able to effectively manage multiple stakeholders and build professional relationships. It's around building and developing new communication styles and techniques, being able to demonstrate critical reflection and do self reflection, as well as give the opportunity for others to reflect. And then this last piece is really all about being able to problem solve. So as you're going through training and talking about preparing for this semester, you're getting a lot of emails, you're taking in a lot of different information. And so that's why I want to take some time to go over this big picture stuff as well as the smaller bits, which is what I'll get into after this. The first thing is that if you don't already have some sort of SLTA folder or service learning tag for your email, I highly recommend you starting that now because that's going to help you as the semester really kicks up to stay organized. Another one of our big expectations from the program, and I think this has been communicated prior, but I want to really drive it home, is that we require that SLTAs attend every single class session in full. So we do this for a lot of different reasons, and a big part of it is making sure that the students see how service learning is integrated into the class. And if they have a TA who shows up and gives updates and then leaves right after, they're not going to see that integration. They're going to see service learning as something that happens separate from the class. This next bit is all about our Wednesday meetings, which we'll dive a lot deeper into in a few slides. But make sure you're checking your calendar for the exact dates because these Wednesday meetings are all required. We want to talk about this more conceptual piece around, as a TA, you really need to practice professional and timely communication. This is a really central and important part of this role. But we don't necessarily tell you how to do that. We provide support for that, but think about what your strategies for doing that is going to be. And this last one is the same thing as our work is surrounded with this ideal of relationship building. It's so important to build a rapport with all the different stakeholders that you're working with. And this is the same thing where we don't tell you how to do this. We don't have a checklist for how to build a relationship. But it's really integral to our work. You constantly see and hear us talking about partnership and relationship building. So after we've taken the time to walk you through some of these bigger picture and more conceptual pieces around the service learning program, I want to take some time to dive into the smaller bits directly related to your job description and what's required of you as a teaching assistant. So one of the biggest ones I want to talk about are how we require you to respond to weekly emails from your team manager. This is really important, one, because your team manager is required to then report back to the program staff around what's going on in your courses, etc. But also that you as a TA are the only one who has your vantage point of your course partnership. You're the one who sees what's happening with your partners and your faculty and your students. And then we ask that you respond to questions and prompts and provide updates about progress so that your team manager can then help you problem solve any issues as well as keep our staff updated. Another big thing I want to talk about is tracking and reporting both student service hours as well as records of your course partnership. So as a program, the university requires us to track student service hours. And so we really rely heavily on our service learning teaching assistants to Create an individualized system that'll work for their course, and then report that to your team manager, who then reports that back to our program. Another thing that I mentioned are course community partnerships. We, as a program, it's likely that we have been partnering with the partners that you're working with for a long time. And so being able to have records of what these individual semesters has looked like, to be able to track communication and if there's been any issues with the partner or the student is really important for us as a program to continue to move forward and be involved. And then a lot of these other bits that are on here around evaluation and participation in the expo, engaging with the street team, and utilizing Basecamp will get talked about in the future. So don't worry too much about those right now, but keep an eye out for when those do become a really important part of your role as well. So now to talk about the Wednesday night meetings. I think we've made it pretty clear in your interview or in the documents you've already received with your hiring is that these Wednesday night meetings are required. So there's 2 large group meetings which are meant to introduce as well as provide a little bit of context to our program and do some reflection. And then there are 2 optional meetings, which are one's a professional development training and another will be a more social gathering. And of all of these large group or optional meetings, the purpose is, yes, for community building, but also to make sure that you have the skills needed and the information needed to be successful at your job. When we don't have large group or optional meetings, we have small group meetings, and these are facilitated by your service learning team manager. These meetings are required, and full participation and attendance at this is required for you to receive your full stipend. So these meetings begin exactly at 6 p.m. and then carry through to the end. So you are expected to be there from 6 p.m. until 7 p.m. or whenever your team manager ends the meeting. We do not accept excuses related to co-op interview, a study group, because you have a big paper due the next day, or you have a student meeting, a group meeting. The only excuses that we do accept are related to if you have an emergency or an illness. So we really rely on these meetings to provide updates, to train you on how to be successful at your job. And so this is extremely important that you are there and understand these pieces. So we've talked a lot about team managers. And so I want to spend some time to clue you in on who they are, what they are, and how you work with them. So I myself have been a team manager. I was one for 3 semesters when I was a student at Northeastern. And essentially, I became a team manager because I was a senior student leader who had experience with service learning. And then I participated in a small group as a service learning teaching assistant. And then when I came on as a team manager, alongside my other team managers, we led our own individual small groups. So our role as TMs is to help hold you accountable, to facilitate your meetings and your trainings. One big part of our role is to help you build community and to learn from one another, to learn how to participate and be engaged. We are the people you come to when you have problems. And then we're also the people you come to when really exciting things happen or when stuff goes really well. We, yes, coach you through challenges, but it's also really important to know that team managers want to hear about the exciting things that are happening. On one of the slides earlier, it mentioned that you have 3 one-on-one check-ins with your team manager throughout the semester, and these are to work on your SMART goals, talk through any issues in your class, and just think about professional development and feedback throughout the entire semester. And then lastly, we send a lot of emails. And as someone who has been a team manager and who has sent a lot of emails to my TAs, we don't send them for fun or out of the good of our hearts. We send our emails and ask you to reply to them because it helps us do our job. We find it to be really important that when we have more information from our TAs, it makes our job easier to then go back to the program staff and tell them what's going on. Because we are asked questions about our TA's courses, and we're able to answer those questions when our TAs really communicate to us. So, some tips and tricks for working with your team managers are the more communication, the better. Don't ever feel like you're bothering us with stuff because it's really important that we know things. The second is come to us with your challenges. We have been teaching assistants, we have worked with so many different people and students and faculty, and we are also trained. So, as team managers, we go through weekly meetings separate from the small group meetings that we facilitate. And during those meetings, we talk through the challenges that our TAs have, and we really have the opportunity to grow as a community as well. So, really, your team manager is there for you. And I think it's really important that SLTAs know these things and know that we have a lot of experience and expertise in what we're trying to help you with. So don't be afraid to come to us. So that was a lot to take in. We encourage you to come back to this, rewatch it. It might be really helpful in another week or two to kind of jog your memory about all of the things that are included and expected of you as a service learning teaching assistant. Afterwards, you'll be prompted to read an in-depth job description, and as you go through that, write down any questions you have and bring those to your team manager because, like I said before, that's what they're there to do, help answer your questions.